there is as Mark says, there is a tendency to pick a kind of a second rower, isn't there? You look at Oliver Holmes and Matty Ashurst, Carl Ablett as previous winners. You tend to pick those guys who are unglamorous, and Lawrence is incredibly effective as a player, but probably largely unrecognised. So yeah, that was my reason.
Yeah, I went slightly differently on this one. I went for Richie Myler. I think just giving him the credit for the job he did, filling in a position he was initially unfamiliar with and doing with the form and really steering his side around. I think he got a little bit of plaudits for it, but in my mind, not as much as he could have done. Looking at other votes, Robert Hicks's beard also got a vote in this one.
Not me, that one.
The other one that didn't get a vote here, but was a good one, was the KCOM Stadium goalposts.
Yeah, that made me laugh, that one. I've got to admit. So maybe I'm over it.
Well, it had a perfect record. It had a try assist and everything. So,
yeah.
What do you think, Sarah? Do you think they've had a good season?
Well, they weren't actually the KCOM Stadium posts.
What?
Well, they were. Are you trying to tell us the St Helens posts? What's going on?
Yeah, they were brought in specially.
They were the RFL's 18-metre high major match posts versus the normal 12-metre, I think it is, high posts.
At the KCOM, yeah.
Well, there you go then. Wow.
Where did the ball strike the post? Was it like?
It wasn't that high, was it?
No, it was about halfway up. It wasn't too good. It wasn't 3/4 of the way up.
Just imagine if it was, though. Holy shit.
If it had come off the top, imagine if it had hit the actual right on the top. To be honest, though, the goalpost thing, then that turns it into another talking point for me. Because shouldn't all the goalposts be of that standard?
Yeah, but then all the pitches should be a standard length, and they're not.
Well, yours was shorter than I always thought it was on the grand final. I didn't realise the KCOM wasn't a full 100-metre pitch.
Is it not?
All the crossbars should be round and not flat, or flat and not round. It's the same argument.
Well, would that have made a difference to Zach Hardaker's one that hit the crossbar?
Yeah.
God, there was so much in that grand final. Go back and listen to the show, everyone.
Also, to finish this one off, we have over 30 different players received votes. Trigger warning, Mark. One person voted for Jack Wellsby as underrated, but almost making their own point, didn't pick him for Young Player of the Year.
I mean, that's remarkable, isn't it? He's underrated, but he doesn't deserve the award that he's up for.
He's underrated, but he's not actually that good.
Maybe they read it as overrated. I don't know.
Maybe they voted before the grand final there. They must have done, surely.
Yeah.
So in third place, this one, it was a joint split 4 ways, with 6% of the votes for James Bentley, Richie Myler, Willie Isa, and Carlos Tumavave. In second place, we got someone who might have carried, if we'd done overrated, would probably have carried a few votes, in Liam Farrell.
Unbelievable.
Sorry, Tim, I don't want to cut in. How is Liam Farrell underrated? Genuinely. The people who love him, and I think everyone respects him. The guy cannot be underrated.
I feel this is still a slight legacy of Wayne Bennett's refusal to pick the best second rower in Super League to play in his international side for 4 years or 3 years, however long he was in charge. Because in that period, I think it was fair to put him as underrated because he wasn't getting the international recognition that he probably deserved. In that period, he was the man of the match in a grand final, and yet still didn't get a sniff of international recognition. But you're right, I kind of think people are lingering on to that now because he's winning the Dream Team 2 years in a row. He is rated fairly, I think.
And finally, the winner for this one, no big surprise from us. It's with 14% of the vote. It was the machine himself, Michael Lawrence.
Well done, Michael.
Definitely.
And an underrated part of Michael Lawrence's underratedness The sort of I've never really heard him speak that much. I've never seen him be interviewed and that sort of stuff that much. Probably because I'm not, around the digital media stuff that Huddersfield put out there, maybe. But when Sky did their Black Lives Matter piece, he was one of the people who spoke prominently on that, and he came across incredibly well. And like I said, I'd never seen him be interviewed really, because he was just the guy who went out and made loads of tackles and missed barely any.
I never got man of the match.
Yeah, because he's underrated.
Yeah, no, I'd echo that. I mean, that entire piece was brilliantly put together, and I think all of them clearly had some very powerful things to say. But yeah, I completely agree. He was a very good, prominent voice in that, without question. Should we move on to best signing then?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So, again, this has been around since 2014. Here's some things from the past. In 2014, it was Luke Walsh. 2015, Adam Cuthbertson. 2016, Kurt Gidley. Remember him? 2017, it was Matt Parcell. Josh Drinkwater picked it up in 2018, and last year it was Lachlan Coote. So in terms of host votes, again we had two hosts agreeing. Both Mark and Tim went for Dan Sarginson. So who'd like to talk about that? Mark?
I'd let Tim go first, because Tim's the biggest Dan Sarginson fan in the world, I think.
Quite possibly. My fellow Waterboy, Dan Sarginson. I just think the difference he made to that side, and you could see the impact when he was out for the cup final, it looked like Salford dropped a lot more than by missing one player. I think he had a galvanising effect, and he was really the enthusiastic heart that was really driving a lot of their success in that cup run.
Yeah, I remember a few things about Dan Sarginson's season, and the two biggest memories for me from Dan Sarginson this year was that tackle at the end of the Wigan game just before lockdown, where I think he put the hit in on Bevan French, knocking the ball free when Wigan were in position to maybe do something to win that game late on. And then the Challenge Cup game where he probably got all of himself and his teammates fined by the way he celebrated it, but he put the final pass in, didn't he, after the clever play from Kevin Brown in that Challenge Cup game to win that right at the death, but then didn't make the Challenge Cup final side because of the COVID situation. I just think Sarginson really added something to Salford from a kind of enthusiasm, like Tim says, but also when Niall Evans got injured, I thought, oh shit, Salford are just a total also-ran this season. But Dan Sarginson said, nah, that's not going to happen, and kind of took things in his own hands at that stage when there was a lot of other players being injured around him. So well done, Dan Sarginson, for me.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. I went a little bit more conventional, a bit more of a flashy player perhaps, and I went for Aidan Caesar at the Giants, kind of leading them around the park and being quite a dominant force for them, certainly early on when they were in excellent form. Sarah's gone with a home pick for Joe Cater.
Well, there was no way I was voting for Dan Sarginson. It was justice that he didn't get to play in the final after decapitating Jamie Shaw and getting that overruled. Dirty animal. So, yeah, but Joe Cater, he signed as a, possibly bench player, possibly future signing, who knows? I mean, he was that bad that he was giving us to ring for the, say thanks to the fans thing. So I think Mark's comment there was, well, they can give you anyone because you've still renewed your pass.
I didn't expect anything from Joe Cater, I'll be honest with you. So I think you giving him a vote here, it's not a Homer choice, I don't think. He totally valid contender for this award.
I think the difference he made to the team, he really brought something. There was so much passion there every week, and his stats, you wouldn't necessarily think it was sort of first few games or anything. So I just thought the difference he made for us was phenomenal.
Yeah, I honestly do think that's totally fair. He proved me wrong, Joe Cater, this year. and I'm certainly not ashamed to admit it. It's changed my opinion of him.
Yeah. So this was a slightly different picking route. So there was a signing from each team to pick from. Abdul Hulkea and Josh Wood at Wakefield didn't manage to get your votes. Israel Folau was the only person off the shortlist to actually get a vote, but there was a clear top three. So in third place with 12%, it was Joe Cater. I would put a prediction down for next year, probably on the list for underrated player for next year.
I think he got maybe a couple of votes. Also, I think he got votes this year, yeah.
I'd be very surprised if he's not on the ballot next year. In second place with 14%, it was Jackson Hastings, and the clear winner in this one, agreeing with me quite rightly, 44%, Aidan Caesar as the best signing. For
whose phone's ringing? I can't hear Alan talking, but I can hear someone's phone ringing.
It's our phone downstairs.
All right. That might explain it.
It was just me that Alan was cutting out for.
Sorry, you were saying Aidan Caesar won with how much of the vote, Al?
Aidan Caesar is clear winner, 4% of the vote.
44% of the vote, so that is quite a big win. It looks like a lot of people got a few votes, but one person got all the votes. So you picked him. So what do you think difference he made this year? Well, what made him the best signing for so many of the voters?
I think when you're talking about best signings, you tend to be looking for a guy who has really positively influenced his team. And certainly early on, it really felt like Caesar was the guy who was dragging his team around the field. And scrum half is one of those very influential positions, and he was very visible. And I think for me, although Huddersfield had probably quite a middling year, not being able to get over kind of, getting results that they perhaps should have done, certainly middle of the year. He was clearly their most influential player.
Yeah.
So he's kind of probably pushed Huddersfield up a level, I would argue, than perhaps what they had there previously. Because obviously they've got a couple of young players kind of coming through, haven't they? And what's his name? It's gone from my head.
Gaskell.
Thank you, Leigh Gaskell. But yes.
He's probably out of the equation there, isn't it? It looks like Caesar's going to have a new halfback partner next year in Jack Cogger.
The positive influence on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from positive influences to negative influences, the only negative award we've kept on the ballot for this year, but how could we let the See You Next Tuesday award slip off the ballots? People would not like that. So previous winners of this award, and winners is of course in inverting commas when it comes to the See You Next Tuesday. In 2014 it was Zach Hardacre. In 2015 it was Marwan Kukash. In 2016 it was Sean Wayne, inexplicably. In 2017 it was Zach Hardacre. In 2018 it was Zach Hardacre. In 2019 it was the racist, hopefully no longer a member of the rugby league community, the Challenge Cup semi-finals, that brought shame on the sport there. But this year there was some other things to kind of tackle on the See You Next Tuesday. What I would say before we go through our votes is it was the first time since this award started, back when the show started, that Zach Hardacre got no votes himself, although whoever told Zach Hardacre to kick for the penalty in the grand final did get one vote from a Wigan fan who, like me, is not over it yet.
Are you sure it wasn't you, Mark?
No, it wasn't me. I went for the same as you, Sarah, actually, the fairly blindingly obvious COVID-19, but how could it not be the thing that's been the worst thing about the world this year, has also had a massive negative effect on our sport, hasn't it, Sarah? And I think, from my point of view, it's the thing that stopped me doing what I loved, which is going and watching games of rugby league. I don't know if you went for the same reasons.
Yes, definitely. It was rubbish, wasn't it, to have such a long time of not being able to, well, still not being able to go to games, but, not even having the games to watch.